Alright, what's going on? It's your boy, currently known on YouTube as E-Bike Mike. I also go by Stealth Reaper 00 for Call of Duty, and I do a couple other things, but right now we're focusing on E-Bike Mike. So, E-Bike Mike 00, Stealth Reaper 00. So I showed up originally with the Shengmilo S600, and I ordered the bike on eBay. I love the bike. I got it all together for like, I think almost $1,700. I'm like 1,680 with the all-state plan that never really does anything and all that. So I'm excited to get the bike. Takes longer than normal. Gets here like after a month and a half or something. I totally like lose it waiting for the bike. It says it's in California, but it took forever for some reason to get here. When I got it, the box was damaged. So I thought nothing of it, just looking forward to opening the bike and riding it and enjoy it. And I did put it together. I did notice that the quality of the frame was pretty solid. Some pretty good industrial, looks like steel. I don't think it's aluminum. I want to say it's steel because it's kind of heavy. And yeah, I thought it was well put together. I didn't notice anything wrong with it. Still don't really notice too much wrong with it. Except initially, right off the bat, I noticed that the front fork dropouts, they looked like they were like, almost like they were made of plaster because the line on them, the finish just wasn't precise. It wasn't perfectly like symmetrical. I was like, okay, whatever. I ignored it. I thought maybe it was like a rough grind or something. Whatever. And the tires stuck out to me because I never heard of the brand before. And they just seemed a little different, but hey, whatever. Chinese proportions and dimensions are always different. So I wasn't surprised. I thought I wasn't going to see any standard size bolts, but I did see metric Allen head bolts, and I was pretty happy with that. Other than that, I was pretty surprised at the quality of the parts, the derailleur and the gear shifting system. I haven't had any issues with it. Rear dropouts hadn't had any issues, except a little bit of wear, but that's because I think taking the wheel off and putting the wheel back on. I'll tell you guys about that in a second. Yeah, the brakes, they're mechanical brakes. It could be hydraulic. That would make it a lot better. That would make the ride a lot smoother. It would make the bike way more reliable. You could feel more safe at high speed going down steep hills and probably carrying a lot of weight. So I'll get into my first few days with the bike. So riding around, I made a lot of speed. I was very shocked at its abilities. I didn't push it. I thought it was a little weird at first, the way it operated, but that's because it doesn't have a torque sensor, and it starts moving based off the rotation of the crank. Also, the geared hub motors, they're very smooth. I love them, but they're a bit underpowered. They did say it was 2,000 watts, but turns out it's more like 1,000. But I'm starting to realize that might not be that it's underpowered because they gave you weaker motors. It might just be the controllers limiting it. So stay tuned because I'm going to try to crack the controllers or get new controllers and upgrade it and see what I can push out of these motors and see what it can do. The suspension, the rear shock was stiff, super stiff. I mean, like, I hit a bump and I thought it was a hardtail. Until after a few more heavy bumps, and I realized it was the geometry of the bike that was affecting the way the shock was. And it's slightly incorrect, it's imperfect. But the bike is good for taking vertical loads. So this bike is like a mountain bike looking e-bike that's meant for flat roads. You know what I mean? It can handle a vertical load, meaning you can put a lot of weight on it. And it can cruise pretty smooth with a lot of weight on it. I say once you reach closer to like 350 plus pounds on the bike, the frame does get a little, you could feel it in the frame. It doesn't fail it anyway. It doesn't feel like it's about to, but you can definitely feel the weight on the frame. It handles it very well. It's taking over bumps, potholes, fully loaded with about 175 pounds worth of tools, and then myself and a backpack. I'd taken it to Boston like that, about 23 miles that way. Did a job while the bike was charging, and then rode back with all the tools on. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Um, Now, the main issue I had with the bike, the front fork broke on me when I was going towards the station one time, and I was going towards a client, and I figured I'd take the train to save me some time. Actually, no, I was going to pick up a GoPro set so I could make videos, and I was excited, so I took my e-bike and I took the tail off of it. And guys, I'm going to show you the e-bike in a second, but I took the basket and the rack off of it, and I was like, okay, cool. We're going to go solo, naked. We're going straight to, Watertown, like 27 miles from where I was at. Maybe 20 something miles. I'm not too sure. Maybe less. I don't know. It was about 20 something miles, let's say. And going to the station, there's this like a whole bunch of ups and all arounds. So I'm riding around. I was hitting a bunch of bumps on the way there on the road because the road was rough. And I noticed I was feeling it in the shock. I was like, this doesn't feel right. It's just the way that the bumps hit the shock. It's like it makes it like the shock doesn't go perfectly straight up and absorb the bump the way it's supposed to. It's almost like the rake is wrong sometimes. So you have to make sure when you go over a bump, you're not leaning onto the front. You're more like leaning back off the front, so that way when it catches the bump, the shock can actually absorb it and have room to move up. That's weird, right? Almost makes you want to wheelie. But that's how you gotta ride this thing. Because if you go heavy down onto the front fork and try to ride the shock out through crazy bumps, it can bind up and snap the dropouts on you, which is what happened to me. And yeah, that sucked. I rode it over to I walked it over to the station. You know what I mean? And as I'm going up, I'm looking at it, and the wheel rolled away pretty much, and it was just an embarrassing time. Brand new, fresh looking e-bike, Shengmilo S600. I was pissed. I talked to the company. They said they were going to make all types of changes and fix it for me and send me new parts. It took like 2 months. I didn't get nothing. They kept spamming me, scamming me, giving me fake um, tracking numbers, and I finally got it because I stayed on it, and I talked to eBay, and I was selling eBay stuff and kept harassing them pretty much for my part. And then they even redesigned it with them and told them what the problem was, and they redesigned it with me, and we came up with a new part that they now make for their Shengmilos overseas. They don't sell it to the West, or at least to the United States that I know of. It's not on eBay. Everybody's getting the crap front fork still. So I'm still waiting for my second front fork that they promised me that they were going to give me, and they never gave me. So we'll see what happens. And yeah, I'd suggest you be careful for that, because that front fork is deadly. Like, those dropouts are weak. They're made out of some type of like, what do you say? I want to say it's some type of like 3D printed fucking fork, real talk, and it has bubbles in it, but it's not 3D printed, because if it was 3D printed, it wouldn't have bubbles. What it is it's some type of powderized metal that's like forged, I guess, but not hot forged. It's like pressed, hydraulic pressed together, and that crap had bubbles in it. And when I opened and I looked at dropouts, like the bolts, studs, wheel, all out, two little ears, two little eye loops looking things, two little dropouts hanging on the ground. I'm like, what the fuck? How does that happen? I'm thinking torsion from the front wheel, and that's what I realized that was part of it, the torsion on the bump, because I had it in all-wheel drive mode. So when you hit the bump and you take torsion at an awkward step and it binds up, it caused it to snap. That like brittle ass fucking front fork material didn't survive. Didn't even have a chance. So boom. Now I know. Now I treat it like a straight up flatlander. It's not meant to be going over bumps, despite the suspension. The suspension is meant to ensure that you have a comfortable ride, not an off-road excursion. They do advertise it on mountain trails and all this and that in their YouTube videos, but I wouldn't dare do that. You can lose your life, possibly go paralyzed or something. I would never do something like that. Now, the next step would be for me, right, is like upgrade the fork. Now, the thing is, if you upgrade the fork to what it's really supposed to be, like a dual crown, full suspension, like front fork with, e-brake capacity and all that, ability to accept the front hub motor, that's gonna cost you like $1,200 at least. So that pretty much is the price of the bike. So that's pretty much why I assume they cheaped out on it. Um, the front headlight is absolutely abysmal. It's terrible. It's not anything up to par, at least over standards over here. If you're in pitch black, you could see a path, but you def can't see a bar. A bar. You can't see a bear about 40 yards away if you're on a dark trail. So don't take it out there like that. This bike is pretty tough. It's pretty strong and pretty fast, but I wouldn't try to outrun a bear with it. Not unless you got like a 3,000 watt motor on the front and a 3,000 watt motor in the back. Yeah, I wouldn't try to outrun a bear or try to outrun a fucking deer. I mean, a wolf or anything like that. I wouldn't take it on back trails. I wouldn't take it on highways competing against cars. If your highway has a bike lane, yeah, sure. Local roads that have bike lanes, I take them all the time. It's cool. I do Uber Eats on this thing sometimes, DoorDash on this thing sometimes. I only do those two because I have the bike, the e-bike. You know, it's my main way to get around, so I rely on it a lot. And this bike hasn't let me down as far as start up and go. I haven't had any weird codes. I did notice that if you start it up while twisting the throttle, you can get an error code number 4, which is because it's reading the throttle at a certain parameter instead of at its standard absolute value at 0, which it's supposed to be at when it starts up, so it can do its fail-safe check maneuver procedure. You know, so when it does that, other than that, I have no codes, no issues. Right now, my bike is at 755 and a half miles on the odometer. I did want to do my original review video at 100 miles, but that's when the fork broke at 105, 106 miles, 105.6, I think. So, other than that, I've had 3 flats, and that's because the roads nearby me are just covered in glass and crap. It was uncomfortable. One of the flats, I did have to kind of roll it on the rear wheel a little bit, and the wheel survived. Surprisingly, the wheels are very strong, the real rims. They're very strong, and the spokes are very strong as well. Well built. The only thing I do have a problem with is the rear fork and the front. I mean, the front fork and the rear shock assembly. Um, the front fork assembly is very cheap. Um, I mean, mine right now is giving at least a half an inch more drop in. Um, so it's getting a little saggy on me, but it's all good. It's not like anything like super noticeable. It's just comfortable. It's broken in, I would say. So when it gets to the point where I start hearing noise or it's bottoming out, then yeah, you guys will be the first to know. The rear shock, I don't think it'll ever go bad because it barely compresses, but when it does, it does. Usually on downhill steps is when you feel it the most. Um, so, like on the side of the highway nearby my house, there's like curbs going down on the side of the highway because there's like sidewalk, and they're like 20 feet, 30 feet apart. So you're going 20, 30 miles per hour down that like path slash sidewalk, and it's just like floom, 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 and it's pretty cool. This bike does handle that. One time, I haven't tried it after the accident with the front fork, so I'm not looking forward to trying it anytime soon until I upgrade my fork. Um, and that's about it. I mean, now, uh, aside from talking, I would say the customer service is terrible. If you get a Shengmilo, I would suggest you be some type of electromechanically inclined or some type of mechanically inclined, um, and have some type of way to understand, you know, what's going on with the bike as far as the system goes, because a lot of people don't understand what it takes to make an e-bike. And it's not difficult, but it is difficult to people who don't know electromechanical or mechanical or just bicycles in general. So I'll break it down. If you guys want a few more tips, if you guys want to know anything to like repair the bike, I'll help you. I can do a lot of that stuff. And I have experience in it. I've been doing it for years, so I don't mind explaining things. As far as, making sure your derailleur is always on the right gear, making sure that your bike is getting the best charge, making sure that how to fix your battery if you're having battery issues, you know what I mean? Wiring auxiliary power into the bike, connecting things and utilizing space as best as possible, tidying up harnesses and stuff like that. You don't want to run too much of a mess. Putting on the carrier and baskets, like I found a way to do it pretty clean. So we'll get to that in a second. So let me just think of anything else that I might have to say before I go ahead and move to the next part. Now I'm going to show you guys the bike, and you can go ahead and take a look. 755 miles on the bike, and this is it raw and uncut. Hasn't been washed or anything. The front wheel did have the original air in it that came from the factory, and it hasn't been deflated, so it still has most of that original air, but I did add some air. So it's got Asian air and American air, like Chinese air and American air, Eastern air and Western air. So it's like, it's air bending in there right now. There's some powers going on. There's some chi. All right, so hold on, let's see. Flip this camera. Why is it not letting me flip the camera? All right, guys, whatever. So we're gonna go ahead and do it like this. I'll do another video next time. That's it. That is the Shengmilo S600. That is my setup right there. Now she's plugged in. It's had a long day of work. Take a good look at her. I'm going to go ahead and get next to her so I can give you guys some scale. I'm 5'11" on this bike, so I'll let you see exactly what it looks like. Oh, what's up? It's my assistant right here, Neo. Neo, what's up, bro? I'm doing my Shengmilo video. Can you help me out real quick? Can you just hold this because I accidentally don't know how to flip it. So can you hold it? Flip buttons on the side up there. Yeah, don't have the buttons there. So I'm just showing the bike. Can you make sure the bike is in the frame? I'm showing it myself and closer to the bike side. Like, you know, like, can you look at the screen and see like how it's looking? Yeah. You kind of got me. You don't got me in the video all the way. There we go. Cool. Yeah. So that's that. Now, I'm 5'11". The bike is it's a decently sized bike when I'm on it. Took it up a little bit. Yeah. So that's the bike. What you just heard there, that click, was the rear spring and the mechanical brake caliper. I think it snapped because too much heat, too much torsion on it, cheap quality. That's that. So let's get back to this. So my bike is set up a little different. As you guys notice, I have a huge headlight here. All right, headlight's pretty powerful, and I run it off an auxiliary battery, which I'll show you in a second. Cool. And this is how bright it is. And that in comparison to the Shengmilo light, yeah, that's the Shengmilo light. Yeah, I couldn't ride with that for long. So that's that. Back to my bike. So if you want to take a closer look, looks like somebody might have like scratched something on my bike. I got a little bit of paint there, but I'll take that off. Somebody must have rubbed some plastic on there. I'll get that off later on, but that's it. That's the setup. I have a cup holder, my gauges, the phone holder. Got another phone holder here in case it rains. And it holds my tools, holds my extra battery pack. So when I'm riding, I got it plugged into the, phone that's sitting on the phone mount. So that's what my dashboard would look like, And then I would show you guys. Can you put that on silent? Video, please. Thank you. And 755 on the odometer. My trip right now is at 197 because I'm doing the 250 miles for veterans. It's a Facebook thing, so Boom. Cool. Now, I read a deep with a D-lock on here because it fits around there just perfectly. And I usually lock it right here. Through the wheel, right through there. Because that way, yeah, sure, it's hard to pick this bike up when it's fully loaded. Right now with this light, this extra battery on there, and this basket, it probably weighs close to 100 pounds. So not everybody's just going to pick it up and run off with it without getting tackled or drop kicked by me. You know what I mean? So, boom, good luck. So that's that. Now, as far as locking it up against stuff, it's also perfect too when I go up against fence posts. Lock it from here. You know, I rarely can lock it from there, but I do lock it from here sometimes. So that's another thing. Note to self, make sure you get 2 locks if you want extra security. So this rear shock, as you can see by the little grease mark, I don't know if you guys can see that. I'll try to see if I can get my flashlight here. Show you guys that. I don't know if you guys can see a little grease mark, but yeah, that's about how far it's compressing, that rear shock. And that's how much travel it's got. Is that a lot? No. But, I mean, it does help, I guess, on the biggest bumps. So, also this right here. That is our heart drill battery. That battery is literally connected to the heart drill battery terminals from a heart drill from Walmart. So you can replace the battery for like $30. So that's why I put it there. If I wanted a bigger battery, it's like 6.5 amp hours. It's like $40. And they're all at Walmart for cheap, and I can always get one for cheap if I need one. Also, the drills are so cheap. The other one I couldn't find the charger, and I just cut the bottom off, ran wires to it inside there. As you can see, it runs inside through the inside of there into my headlight assembly. It's all tucked in pretty nice. I got it clean. You know, it's got zip ties and stuff. And I